When King Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon, he got proud and very full of himself. And he built a statue that was 6 cubits wide and 60 cubits tall. And it was all covered in gold. So 6 cubits would be 9 feet across, and 60 cubits tall would be 90 feet tall. It's like a 9-story building. This huge statue. And he made a decree, a proclamation, that when they played the instruments, that everyone, all the people of all the nations, of all the languages, would bow down and face this way and worship this statue. So he called all of his great leaders, called them all in, and he announced this to them. And he played the music. Everyone bowed down and started worshiping. But there were 3 men who didn't. And the leaders didn't like these men, just like they didn't like Daniel, because they served the true God and they were different. And so the leaders came to King Nebuchadnezzar and said, "O king, O great king, there are 3 men who defy you, who do not bow down, who do not worship you. You must do something about it." So they called for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the king questioned, "Why did you not bow down and worship when I said you were to bow down and worship?" And they said, "King, we worship no God but our God." And he said, "If you don't bow down and worship, then you'll be thrown into the fiery furnace, and you'll be cast in, and whatever happens, happens." They said, "King, we're not afraid, because our God has us. Our God will take care of us. And if he doesn't deliver us, we'll be in heaven with him. So either way, we're fine. We will not bow down. We will not worship anyone but the one true God, our God." And King Nebuchadnezzar was mad. He was furiously mad. And he called for his strongest soldiers to bind up these men, and tight as you can bind them up. And he called for the furnace to be heated hotter than it ever was. And it was so hot, so very hot, that when the strong men tried to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace, guess what? The fire got them. King Nebuchadnezzar was so upset, some of his soldiers died because he was being mean and prideful. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fire, thrown into the furnace. And they were sitting there and they were watching, waiting for something, and they didn't hear anything. King Nebuchadnezzar looked in, he goes, "Hey guys, didn't we throw 3 men into the fire?" They said, "Yes, O king, we did." He said, "Why do I see 4 men walking around? And the 4th, well, he looks like the Son of God." The men were astonished. Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego had been thrown in the fire, and their ropes had been burned off, but they were fine. They were walking around unbound and unburnt. And so King Nebuchadnezzar ran over the furnace and said, "Hey, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out, come out." And they walked out. They weren't burnt. They weren't red. Their clothes weren't singed. Their hair wasn't singed. There was not a burn mark on them. They didn't even smell like smoke. You know when you go to a campfire and you sit around the fire and you smell like smoke? They didn't even do that. There was no evidence they'd even been in the furnace, because God had protected them so much, just like he protected Daniel in the lion's den. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar was so blown away by the power of their God, he made another decree. He said, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was so great that they would not bow down to the king, and they believed that he would protect them, and he did. So we will not worship these other gods. We'll worship this God, and let no one say anything against him. And if anyone says anything against their God, he'll be in big trouble with me. So there we are again. People in the Bible who decided to do right no matter what. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in a foreign land. They'd been taken captive. But because they were responsible, and we learned about responsibility in the weekend lesson, because they were obedient and loyal and hardworking, they had been promoted. They'd been given a lot of responsibility and a lot of privilege. They didn't have to stay true to their God because nobody would have known. Just them and, well, God. And that's really important, isn't it? Because God knows everything. But because they stayed true, just like Joseph, God protected them. God blessed them. And they impacted a whole kingdom because 3 men chose to do what was right. So how about you? Can we choose to do what's right today? I think it's really important. Don't you?